The sky burned red as the stars began to fall. At first, people thought it was just a strange meteor shower. Children pointed at the sky, amazed by the bright lights. But within minutes, the truth became clear. Those weren't stars. They were ships, alien warships, giant, black, and fast. They came without warning, without a message, without mercy. Cities vanished in seconds. New York, Tokyo, Berlin, gone. Fire rained down from the sky as buildings crumbled and screams filled the air. People ran, but there was nowhere to hide. Oceans boiled, forests turned to ash, and the ground cracked open like glass. In just 1 hour, half the earth was in ruins. The alien race had arrived. They were called the Zareen, and they didn't come to speak. They came to destroy. Captain. Raylan stood in orbit, watching everything from his ship, the Resolve. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with rage. He saw the planet suffering below and clenched his fists. He had lost his brother in Berlin, his mother in Rome, and his home in San Francisco, all gone in less than 10 minutes. He felt pain, but he didn't cry. He made a promise instead. "They want destruction," he whispered. "We'll give them extinction." The United Earth Navy had only one battle fleet left. Every other ship was destroyed in the first attack. Commanders were panicking. Some wanted to surrender, others wanted to run. But Raylan didn't believe in either. He believed in fighting. He gathered his crew, soldiers, scientists, and pilots, and told them the truth. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every planet they'll destroy next. If we fall, they will keep going. If we win, we stop them forever." A young technician named Eli ran into the control room with wide eyes. "Sir, you need to see this." Raylan followed him to the data room, where satellite images were showing something strange. In Antarctica, where no one had attacked, something was glowing beneath the ice. It was not human-made. It was ancient. And it was reacting to the Zareen's presence. Raylan ordered a team to land near the signal. They broke through the ice and found a giant black structure, half buried, humming with energy. No one knew what it was, but it had symbols, circles, lines, and sharp edges, nothing Earth had ever seen. As the team touched the surface, the ice around it melted rapidly, revealing a doorway. Back on the ship, Raylan watched the live feed. "This isn't Zareen technology," one scientist said. "It's older, much older." The team entered the doorway and disappeared from the cameras for a few minutes. Then, the screen lit up again. Inside the structure, the walls were covered with glowing patterns. In the center, there was a floating crystal, bright blue and spinning slowly. It pulsed like a heartbeat. When the team approached it, the crystal reacted. A burst of light shot out and a hologram appeared in the air. An alien figure, tall and thin with 6 glowing eyes. It didn't speak any language they knew, but it showed images. A galaxy on fire, a war, planets being destroyed, and then the Zareen being defeated. The hologram ended with one phrase repeated in English. "Only one survives. Always." The signal cut out. The team inside stopped responding. Silence. Raylan stared at the blank screen, his jaw tight. "They found something," he said. Something. The Zareen fear. He didn't know if his team was alive or dead, but he knew one thing for sure. This ancient structure, whatever it was, could be humanity's only hope. As Earth burned and the sky turned darker, Raylan turned to his crew. "We don't have much time. They will return to finish the job." He pointed to the hologram frozen on the screen. "But this might help us finish them first." Outside the ship, in the cold of space, the enemy fleet regrouped. Thousands of Zareen warships were heading back toward Earth for the final blow. But this time, humanity wasn't going to beg. They were going to fight. And if the Zareen wanted, or they were going to learn something new, humans don't die quietly. They fight back. The ice around the alien structure kept melting, even though Antarctica was still freezing. Captain Raylan watched the satellite feed from orbit. The team that had gone inside was still silent. No messages, no signals, just silence. Raylan felt a heavy weight in his chest. He had sent 5 of his best people, and now, nothing. But he couldn't waste time waiting. Earth didn't have time. The Zareen were regrouping. Raylan ordered the wreckage of fallen satellites to be scanned for any data the alien crystal might have sent before the signal was lost. A young data analyst Lyra found something. A single pulse, a coded energy wave sent just before the screen went black. It wasn't a distress call. It was a message. Coordinates. But not on Earth. They pointed to a location near Mars. Raylan's eyes narrowed. "They want us to go to Mars," he said. "Or whatever left that message does." Mars was home to Earth's last colony, a mining base with about 3,000 survivors, mostly engineers and scientists. If the Zareen attacked Mars next, there would be no chance to save those people. Raylan made the decision. The Resolve jumped to Mars orbit in 5 hours using Earth's fastest warp drive. When they arrived, the sky above Mars was already dark. Zareen ships were on their way. Raylan ordered his crew to prepare for a defense. "This is where we hold them," he said. "They think they've seen what humans can do. Let's show them they've seen nothing yet." With the alien tech data recovered from the crystal, Earth's engineers had created something new. An energy field that could block some of the Zareen's most powerful weapons. It wasn't perfect, but it gave them a chance. Raylan worked with the scientists on Mars to create a trap. They would let the enemy in close, and then activate a magnetic storm generator, a device that could fry electronics, even alien ones. The plan was risky. If it failed, the Mars base would fall in seconds, but there was no other option. Soon, the first Zareen ships appeared. They moved like shadows, quiet, fast, and deadly. They didn't speak. They didn't send warnings. They just opened fire. Mars trembled as explosions rocked the surface. Raylan stayed calm. "Not yet," he told his weapons officer. "Let them get closer." Inside the command center, Lyra monitored the enemy patterns. "They're moving. In too perfectly," she whispered, "like they know." Suddenly the main screen blinked. Static. Then a voice, broken and strange, came through. It was one of Raylan's missing team members. Her name was Cora. She looked pale, her eyes glowing faintly. "Captain," she whispered. We touched it. It changed us." Raylan stepped forward. "Cora, what happened down there?" She shook her head slowly. "The crystal, it's alive. It showed us everything, the war, the old ones, what the Zareen really are. They're not just destroyers. They feed on fear, on pain. They don't want to win. They want to make us suffer." The screen glitched again. Then she added something chilling. "And they know what you're planning. They can hear you through me. I'm not just me anymore." The signal cut out. Raylan stood in silence. Half his crew was stunned. Was Cora still human? Had the crystal infected her or warned her? But there was no more time to think. The enemy fleet was in position. Raylan gave the command. The magnetic storm generator fired. A wave of blue energy spread across Mars orbit. Several Zareen ships froze, lost power, and fell from the sky. The trap worked, but only for a few seconds. Then the rest of the enemy ships adapted. Their systems restarted, and they began to change. Their shapes twisted. Their weapons glowed brighter. "They're evolving," Lyra said in horror. "They're learning from us." Raylan gritted his teeth. "Then we have to stop giving them chances to learn." The battle raged. Human ships fought with everything they had. Dozens were lost, but they destroyed twice as many Zareen vessels. For the first time since the war began, humanity didn't run. They stood their ground. But even in victory, Raylan couldn't forget Cora's final words. "They feed on fear. They hear you through me." And just before the end of the battle, the alien crystal on the Resolve began to pulse again. Faster, louder, brighter. A new message appeared on the ship's console. Only 2 words. "It begins." Raylan stared at the screen. The war wasn't over. It was just starting. Captain Raylan didn't sleep that night. After the battle over Mars, the silence felt louder than the war. They had won, For now, but the cost was heavy. Dozens of human ships were gone, thousands of lives lost, and the enemy was changing. The Tsarine had learned to adapt, even to human tricks. But something else kept Raylan awake. The crystal. It was still pulsing, still glowing. The same blue light that first appeared under Antarctica now filled the lab on board the Resolve. It wasn't just a rock. It was sending a signal, a low humming sound that echoed through the walls. Lyra ran more scans. The signal was pointing underground, deep beneath Mars, far below the old mining stations. "Something is buried there," she said. "Another structure, like the one in Antarctica. But this one is bigger." Raylan made his choice. "We're going down." He chose a small team, only 5 people. Himself, Lyra, a weapons officer named Briggs, a geologist named Sana, and a new pilot named Theo. They flew a stealth shuttle down to the surface and began drilling at the location. Hours passed. Dust filled the air. The ground trembled. Then they hit something hard. It wasn't rock, it was metal. They cleared the dirt and uncovered a giant door, round, black, and smooth, with a glowing symbol in the middle. It looked like an eye. As soon as Raylan touched, the symbol lit up, and the door opened on its own. Inside was a tunnel, cold, silent. The walls were covered in the same alien patterns they had seen before. They walked slowly, weapons ready. No one spoke. They could feel something watching them. Deeper inside, they found a room filled with machines, floating orbs, spinning lights, and a giant screen showing a map of the galaxy. But the map wasn't peaceful. It showed stars exploding, planets cracking apart, and dark shadows spreading. Sana whispered, "This is a record of a war, a very old one." Suddenly the screen changed. A new image appeared. It was Earth, and it was marked in red. Lyra pressed a button on the side panel. A voice, deep and ancient, began to speak. It wasn't English, but the crystal translated it. The voice said, "The Tsarine were not born. They were built. They were weapons created by a lost empire. But they broke free. They learned. They grew. Now they hunt all life. Only one species has ever hurt them." The screen showed a symbol. 2 hands of light forming a circle. "You," the voice continued. "Humans." The room went silent. Raylan stepped closer. "Why us?" The voice answered, "Because you fear death, but you do not run from it, you fight." Suddenly the walls shook. The ground above was moving. Briggs shouted, "They found us! The Tsarine are coming!" Theo tried to signal the Resolve, but the radio only played static. Something was blocking their signal. Raylan grabbed the crystal from its mount. It was pulsing rapidly now, glowing brighter than ever. As they ran back through the tunnel, the floor cracked behind them. Giant machines burst from the ground, Tsarine hunters, tall and sharp like walking blades. They didn't speak. They just attacked. The team opened fire. Lasers cut through the air. One of the machines took Briggs down with a single blow. Sana screamed. Lyra grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. "Go, go!" Raylan turned and tossed a grenade, buying them a few seconds. They ran through the door just as it closed behind them. Theo hit the shuttle's engine hard. The ship blasted off, shaking, from damage. As they rose into the sky, they saw the ground collapse below them. The structure was gone, buried again. But the crystal in Raylan's hand still glowed. Back on the Resolve, the crew rushed to treat the wounded. Sana cried quietly in a corner. Lyra sat next to Raylan and looked at the crystal. "This thing," she said, "it's not just a key, it's a warning." Raylan nodded slowly. "Or a test." Later that night, the ship's systems detected something new. A massive energy signal, far from Mars, beyond Jupiter. A Tsarine mothership bigger than anything they'd seen before, heading straight for Earth. Raylan stood in the command deck, staring out at the stars. "They know we've found something," he said, "and now they're coming to finish the job." But he wasn't afraid, not anymore. Now he had a weapon. Now humanity had a chance, and the war was about to change forever. The Tsarine mothership moved through space like a dark storm, bigger than a mountain. Its surface shimmered with black metal and burning red lights. It was alive in some way, changing shape slowly, like it was breathing. Every sensor on Earth lit up as it crossed Jupiter's orbit. Panic spread across the solar system. Earth's defenses were not ready. No ship had ever faced something that size and survived. On the Resolve, Captain Raylan watched the data come in. The alien crystal in his hand was warm now. It pulsed with strange energy, almost as if it felt the mothership coming. Lyra stood beside him, pale and silent. "It's too fast," she said. "We don't have time to build more defenses." But Raylan had already made his choice. "We're not going to wait for them to reach Earth," he said. "We're going to intercept them." The crew went quiet. To fly toward the mothership was madness, but no one questioned the order. They had seen what the Zorine could do, and they had also seen what humans could do when they refused to run. Raylan gathered the best pilots and engineers from the Mars base. Together, they armed the Resolve with every weapon Earth had left: missile pods, energy torpedoes, and a new cannon powered by the alien crystal. The engineers called it the Sun-Piercer. It could fire one shot, but that shot would burn through anything. As the ship left Mars' orbit and moved toward Jupiter, the crew received a final message from Earth Command. "No reinforcements. You are on your own. Good luck." They didn't need luck. They needed rage. They reached the mothership near Jupiter's moon Ganymede. The Zorine ship didn't speak. It didn't warn them. It just opened its mouth, yes, it had a mouth, and launched a swarm of smaller attack drones. Hundreds of them, black as night, sharp as knives. Raylan gave the command. "All guns fire." The battle exploded like a storm. Space lit up with flames and metal. The smaller ships danced through debris, firing lasers and dodging wreckage. Lyra and the gunners fired non-stop, dropping drone after drone, but there were too many. Theo, flying. A support ship nearby shouted over comms, "Captain, we're getting surrounded." "Hold the line," Raylan yelled. "Get me a clear shot at the mothership." Briggs, still injured from Mars but refusing to sit out, dragged himself to the cannon controls. The crystal-powered Sun-Piercer began to glow, but it needed time to charge. Meanwhile, the mothership began to change. Its surface cracked open, revealing a red core pulsing like a heart. Beams of fire shot from its center, cutting straight through 3 human ships. They didn't even have time to scream. Lyra gritted her teeth. "Captain, we won't make it unless we do something now." Raylan closed his eyes for a moment. Then he gave a risky order. "We ram the front line. Push through their drones. Get us close." The crew stared in shock. But no one said no. The Resolve turned sharply, heading straight for the wall of death. Enemy drones smashed into its hull. Shields broke. Alarms rang. But the ship kept going. Metal tore. Fires burst along the sides. But they broke through, for E. 1 second they had a clear shot. Briggs, barely holding on, slammed the button. The Sun-Piercer fired. A beam of light, white and blue, brighter than the sun, shot straight into the heart of the mothership. Time seemed to stop. Then, the explosion. The core of the mothership burst into flames. Black metal melted like wax. A shockwave blasted through space, knocking every ship spinning. On the Resolve, the lights went out. Everyone was thrown to the floor. Silence. Then cheers. The mothership was breaking apart. Raylan stood up slowly, bleeding from his forehead. He looked out the window. The monster was dying. But just as he turned to check on Briggs, a whisper came through the speakers. Not a scream, not a roar. A whisper. It said, "You are not the end. You are the beginning." Then the voice laughed, cold, echoing, not human, and, far beyond the wreckage, something opened in space. A tear. A hole. A portal. Lyra stared at it, horror in her eyes. "Captain, that wasn't their main ship." Raylan didn't move. He just whispered back, "Then what did we just kill?" Behind them, the stars began to bend. And something else, something far worse, was coming through. Space was broken. After the Zarine mothership exploded near Jupiter, the sky didn't return to normal. A large black tear floated in space where the ship had died. It wasn't smoke. It wasn't a shadow. It was a portal, a hole in space itself. Around it, the stars twisted, like light was being pulled inside. Captain Raylan stood on the bridge of the Resolve, staring at the portal. The crew was silent. Wounded soldiers lay on the floor. The ship was badly damaged. But no one dared to move or speak. Everyone felt the same thing: fear. The whisper that came before the portal still echoed in their heads. "You are not the end. You are the beginning." Lyra checked the sensors. "Captain, something's coming through." Raylan gripped the edge of the console. "Another ship?" She shook her head slowly. "No, it's not a ship." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The ship's systems began to fail one by one. Doors opened and closed. Monitors glitched. A low, strange humming filled the halls. It didn't come from the speakers. It came from inside the walls, like the ship itself was. Shaking in fear, then they saw it. Something floated out of the portal. It was massive, taller than any ship, but it didn't move like metal. It moved like smoke with a form that changed every second. It had no face, no eyes, no engines, just arms. Long black arms that stretched through space, reaching for nothing and everything. Theo gasped. "It's alive!" The thing didn't attack, it just floated there, watching. Even without eyes, everyone could feel it looking at them. Suddenly, the alien crystal in Raylan's pocket began to burn. He pulled it out. It glowed bright blue, then cracked down the middle. A sharp blue spark shot from it, and then it died. Lyra backed away. "The crystal's broken. It can't help us now." Raylan didn't blink. "We find another way." But that was easier said than done. The Resolve was barely flying. Half the weapons were gone. Engines were failing. There was no backup coming. Earth hadn't responded since the battle started. Maybe they were too far, maybe. They were already under attack. The crew began repairs, but nothing worked. Every time they fixed something, another part failed. The strange humming grew louder. Then Sana, the geologist, called from the lower deck. "Captain, you need to see this." Raylan rushed down with Lyra and Theo. Sana stood beside one of the ship's side walls, holding a scanner. The metal was changing, turning dark and soft. A black symbol was forming, like ink leaking into metal. It was the same symbol they saw under Mars. "The eye," Sana whispered. "It's spreading from the portal. It's not just in space. It's infecting our world." Raylan stared at the symbol, then back out the window at the black figure floating in space. "This isn't war anymore," he said. "This is invasion, but not with weapons, with corruption." Theo stepped forward, eyes wide with fear. "What if that thing doesn't want to destroy us?" he asked. "What if it wants to become us?" Suddenly, alarms blared. The ship's AI voice rang out. "Warning, life form detected inside the hull." Raylan grabbed his weapon. "Inside!" The crew ran to the engine room. What they found made their blood run cold. One of the engineers was standing in the middle of the room, but he wasn't himself. His skin was dark, shiny like oil. His eyes glowed red. He smiled, but it wasn't a human smile. He spoke in a soft voice. "It's beautiful. The silence. The peace. No more pain. No more war. Just surrender." Then he exploded into black mist. It shot through the room like gas, hitting two more crew members. They began to scream. Their skin changed. Their eyes went red. Raylan didn't hesitate. He shot them both. Lyra covered her mouth in shock. Theo looked away. Raylan stood firm. "If we don't stop this, no one will be left to save." They sealed the engine room and cut off the airflow. The infection slowed, but didn't stop. The black mist was inside the walls now, whispering, changing everything it touched. Raylan looked at his remaining crew. "We leave this system. We warn Earth. Whatever that thing is, it's not finished." But just as they prepared to escape, the portal began to widen. More shadows appeared. Lyra gasped. "Captain, so there's more than one." Raylan's heart sank. One was terrible. Many could mean the end of everything. He turned to the crew. His voice was calm but firm. "We fight if we have to. We run if we must. But we never give up, not until our last breath." And as the Resolve turned toward Earth, the stars behind them were no longer stars, they were eyes, watching, waiting, coming. The Resolve limped back toward Earth, damaged and haunted. The stars behind it were no longer empty. Something old and dark had awakened. And it wasn't finished. Inside the ship, the crew was quiet. Many were hurt. Some had lost friends in the fight near Jupiter. But what scared them most wasn't the wounds. It was what they had seen. The shadow that came from the portal, the way it infected metal and minds. Captain Raylan sat in the command chair, his face cold and tired. Earth was one day away. But he knew they had less time than that. The shadows were coming faster. They could feel it, like something crawling just behind their ship, reaching through space. Lyra watched the stars with wide eyes. "They're following us," she whispered. "How can they move so fast without ships?" Sana answered from the back. "They don't need ships. They are the weapon." Suddenly the comms crackled. A voice came through, broken but alive. "This is Earth Command. Resolve, do you copy?" Raylan leaned forward. "This is Captain Raylan. We're alive. Barely. We saw the explosion near Jupiter. Then the signal vanished. What happened out there?" Raylan took a long breath. "The Zerine mothership is destroyed, but something worse came through a portal after it. We don't know what it is, but it's alive. And it's following us." The voice from Earth paused. "Captain, that portal, there's one here too, over the Pacific Ocean." Everyone on the bridge froze. Raylan clenched his fists. "It's already started." Back on Earth, the skies above the Pacific were changing. Thick clouds swirled around a glowing black hole in the sky. It wasn't fire. It wasn't light. It was like the sky itself had been cut open. From it, long, dark shapes began to fall. Slowly, like dripping oil. Cities panicked. Sirens rang. People ran for shelter, but no one knew how to fight shadows. On the Resolve, the crew picked up speed. They needed to warn the world. But more than that, they needed a way to fight. Then Theo spoke up. "Captain, we still have the shard." Everyone turned to look at him. "The crystal broke." "Yes," Theo said. "But not all of it. I saved a piece." He pulled a small blue shard from his pocket. It was cracked, but still glowing faintly. Lyra stepped closer. "It still has energy." Raylan stared at the shard. "Is it enough?" Sana stepped forward. "Maybe not on its own. But if we connect it to Earth's defense grid, we might boost its signal. Maybe even push back the darkness." Raylan gave the order. "Then that's what we do. We get it to the core." The core was Earth's last defense, a massive space station in high orbit. It had weapons, shields, and one giant transmitter built to control all planetary systems. If the shard could power it, even for a moment, they might strike the shadows before they reached land. As the Resolve neared Earth, the crew saw the planet below. Fires burned across the oceans. Shadows moved across clouds. But light still blinked in the cities. Earth was still fighting. They docked at the core. Soldiers rushed out to help. Raylan and his team carried the shard straight to the control room. Engineers worked quickly. Wires sparked, machines hummed. The shard was placed into the center of the grid, and it lit up. Blue light filled the room. For a moment, the air felt warm, alive. Then the core spoke. "Power detected. Weapon systems active." Raylan turned to Earth Command. "Give me full access." A general appeared on screen. "You've got it. Do what you must." Raylan looked at his team. "This is it." He fired the pulse. From orbit, a wave of blue light shot from the core. It moved fast, sweeping across the Earth. Wherever it touched, the shadows stopped. The black mist shrieked and vanished. The portal over the Pacific cracked. And for a few minutes, the sky was clear again. Cheers erupted on the core, on the Resolve. In the cities below, they had hit back. But then, the lights dimmed. The shard burned out. The blue glow faded. Raylan's voice dropped. That was all we had. Lyra checked the sensors. Her face went pale. Captain, more portals. All across the planet. Sana's voice shook. That was only the first wave. Raylan closed his eyes. Then we don't run. He turned to the crew. We are humanity. We don't bow. We don't break. If they want this world, they'll have to fight for every inch. And from space, they watched as the sky over Earth split wide open again, the say. Final battle was about to begin, not just for Earth, for the future of mankind. The world was breaking. Dark portals opened across the sky, over oceans, over mountains, over cities. Black mist poured out like smoke from a dying star. Shadows fell to Earth, tall, shapeless things with arms like knives and eyes like burning coals. They made no sound when they walked, but everything they touched died. On the ground, people fought with everything they had. Tanks fired. Jets dropped bombs. Soldiers screamed and held their ground. But bullets passed through the creatures like wind. In the skies above, the Resolve flew low, leading the charge with Earth's last air fleets. On board, Captain Raylan watched the world fall apart. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe deeply. He just gave orders, clear, calm, ready to die. The shard is dead, Lyra said from her console. We have no more alien tech, no more defense pulses, nothing. Raylan answered without turning. Then we fight with what we are. Theo, sitting beside her, whispered, And what are we? Raylan finally looked at them. We're human. Down below, Sana was on the ground, in a lab near an old military base. She and a few scientists were trying something desperate. They had taken broken pieces of the alien crystal and mixed them with Earth's tech. They called it phase burn. It wasn't tested. It wasn't safe. But if it worked, it would burn the shadows from inside. Ready, Sana said, holding the small black bomb. But we need time and protection. Raylan got her signal. All wings protect that base. Don't let the shadows near her. Fighters flew in formation. Missiles cut the sky. Lasers screamed through the night. But for every shadow they destroyed, 3 more came. Inside the base, Sana worked fast. Sweat ran down her face. The machine pulsed. The bomb began to glow. Back on the Resolve, the ship shook. Something had latched onto it. A shadow. It began to crawl across the hull like a spider. Crew members screamed as black claws tore through the metal. Raylan grabbed his rifle. They want our world, he growled. Let's give them a real welcome. He and Theo opened the airlock and fired. Bright rounds lit up the dark. The shadow screeched, falling off into the clouds. But more climbed up. Lyra shouted, They're not after the ship, they're after us. They want minds, hosts. They want to become us. Suddenly, Raylan froze. He remembered the voice, the one that whispered after the first mothership died. You are not the end. You are the beginning. It had never wanted to win a war. It wanted to spread. Raylan ran back to the controls. All units, fall back. They want contact. The more they touch us, the faster they grow. But Sana, she's our only chance. In the lab, Sana held the bomb steady. 10 seconds, she whispered. The shadows were almost at the doors. She could hear them breathing. 5 seconds. She pressed the trigger. A light exploded from the base, not like fire, not like lasers. It was pure white, silent. All across the world, shadows froze. They screamed, not in pain but in fear. For the first time, they were afraid. Then they burned, not with fire, with truth. The light tore through them, pulling out whatever poison they were made of and leaving behind only ash. Portals shook, cracked, shattered like glass. One by one, the holes in the sky closed. The earth went still. Smoke rose from ruined cities. Silence took the air. Raylan stood in the broken bridge of the Resolve, watching as the last portal flickered, then vanished. Lyra spoke softly. Is it over? He didn't answer at first, then he nodded. They wanted destruction. Theo stepped forward. And what did they get? Raylan looked out at the rising sun. Extinction. Down on Earth, Sana stepped from the burning lab. Her face was bruised, her hands shaking, but she smiled. Around the world, people came. Out of shelters. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Families cried and held each other. They were still here. Humanity had been pushed to the edge. But they didn't fall. They rose. Raylan gave one final order. Send this message to every world, out there. Lyra began the broadcast. To those who watched and waited, this is Earth. We are still standing. Come in peace or don't come at all. The signal echoed across the stars. And far away in the cold silence of deep space, other eyes watched. But they blinked. They turned away because they now understood. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was the fire, and those who brought war found their end.